recording this to the cloud. R795, week 1, spring semester 2024 is being recorded to the cloud. The class, I think, has 4 PhD students in it and 5 EDD students in it, but I think 1 or 2 PhD students may be adding because they passed their quals and they should sign up, but they haven't yet. I know we have Matt in here who signed up. So Shishi, Kyunjae, Matt, and I'm looking on who the PhD student is. Luke, are you an EDD student or? Yeah. And he's kind of a trader going up to Michigan.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. Just a little bit.
What city in Michigan?
I'm actually right outside of Ann Arbor in a little city called Ypsilanti. I'm literally about 10-minute drive to the University of Michigan. And it's funny too, because Ypsilanti is home to Eastern Michigan University.
Right.
So,
right, it is.
Yes.
2 big schools.
Two very big schools. So I'm very close by.
So she got her master's there and stayed and hangs out up there all the time. And we'll have Mena Ju as a guest this semester one time. And she's living in Ann Arbor, working at Wayne State University.
Oh, that is actually where my dad went to med school.
So. Very good place as well. They have lots of universities up in the region up there. I'm from Milwaukee, directly latitudinally across Lake Michigan. So I have sort of the same accent as the people you interact with in Michigan up there.
But yeah, my dad's originally from Michigan, so I get a little bit of it. So
yeah. I understand. Yeah. So we go north to south here because Therese is way down south and Ed's down in the south as well, right, Ed?
I'm in Texas.
Yeah. So we got a couple people south, and then west coast. We got Sydney with us tonight, and then Tiana Kyungjae are here in Bloomington, and she's in China right now, and she'll be back in Bloomington within a couple of weeks. So, issues that came up, Therese or Sunmei, in your discussions.
Actually, we talked about the discourse and then what I learned before, and then I share some tips about this one, and then especially in research questions. That's because that one is the kind of a first step, but it's really hard and it's really important. So they asked some question and I answered them. And that is not very long time. So actually, I didn't talk about the EDD qualification exam. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And Therese?
I think Ed and I had a really good conversation, just getting to know each other and how long we've been at IU. A little bit about his research interests. So we spoke about his research interest and the universities, and he's a real academic, having done 3 master's degrees and doing his PhD, his EDD now. So we just spoke about his work environment and what that would be like conducting his research there.
Okay. Any questions that came out from those chats that you want to raise with me?
GC has a question.
I think I have question about the syllabus, so maybe when you go over, we can see if I still have them.
Sure. One thing I'd maybe like to do is in the chat window before I get started, and we'll work on this a little bit. I'd like to know 1 or 2 things that you'd maybe like me to give advice on or lecture on or create a presentation on. So last spring, I created a presentation on communicating with your advisor. I created one on how to form collaborative teams and another one on how to collect data. The semester before, I created ones on how to defend a dissertation and how to revise a dissertation. So I'm thinking along those lines. So if you could, the chat's open there. If everyone, I'll just be quiet for a minute. What's one thing that could really be helpful for you in working on your dissertation or in being a better academic or writer or any of that? What could be helpful for you for us to maybe talk about any week of the semester? And Tiana's driving, so she can't type. And Tiana, while they're typing, is there anything that you'd like to mention? Balloons. Okay, we got balloons here. Graduation. How to celebrate properly if you pass. I can teach you about that. What are ways to celebrate completion? Now, just preparing for the dissertation exam, the dissertation defense. Yeah, that's part of what I've put that's in there among, but I could do more about the preparation side. Yeah, I could add a little bit more on that. Yeah. Anything else? While you're typing, my son got published today in the Korea Times about his adoption. That just came out. His first big thing, I guess. He's a good writer. Well, we don't have anything yet. So let me just say, as I was saying in the breakout group, a year ago in the fall last year, I guess it would have been a year and a half ago, everyone really formed a great community. We had 8 or 9 EDD students and 1 PhD student. And the 1 PhD student didn't attend this much, didn't really mix in, but the other 8 coalesced really nicely and formed a real community. And they actually, they actually made me a coffee cup to drink from at the end. Everyone liked, everyone they didn't want to leave, it was really great. And last spring, it was not necessarily that way. It was half PhD and half EDD. And it seemed like some people felt like the fall, a year ago fall, they said, the EDD said it was just great. And in the last spring, they felt I emphasized the PhD students too much. So, it's hard for me to judge because I've got different responses. And I've taught this four times before, and every time's gone pretty well, but there's always something you could do better and so forth. So Ed says, how to select a research topic in a corporate environment. Corporations seem to be resistant to sharing information. I've run into that once or twice. So it could be a challenge to share data with students. One of my students is facing that issue right now. But that's something I could think about. So let me write this down. Planning for a defense, but it's also giving the defense, not just planning. And then how to obtain corporate data. Yeah, we could look something up. Now, this class I do not have officially a TA. You will notice, and normally I do, and this is the first time I've not. What I've got is, I think, almost 10 previous students who are coming back at different times of the semester to share with you things. I've got 6 of them listed on the homepage. I didn't list a couple of them who are professors at other universities because it might look kind of strange if they're a professor and they're also listed as a TA in this class. The university might be mad at them and might not pay them any money. So I don't have a couple people listed on there who will be popping in just to share with us and help out during the semester. So I've done that once before with my Saturday class, having different people pop in different weeks, and it usually goes pretty well. And I've got Therese and Sunmei maybe coming back next week, but maybe not. We're gonna have people next week Tuesday. Is the 1 week we'll focus on EDD students, on how to prepare for quals, and the PhD students might feel a little left out. So I'll probably be meeting PhD students on Friday during the time in which has been allocated for this class. And Shishi we'll try and get you in through Zoom, but it might be, it might not be possible because it's going to be bedtime in China then at 2 in the afternoon. Here it'll be 3 in the morning, so probably it's not going to be possible. But anyways, next week will be the 1 week that's different, I think. But I'm not positive yet. I'm not positive. So also the one change I made this semester, I merged 2 assignments together. I felt like the other professors who designed this class before me have had too many assignments or too many things due. So I wanted to merge one. So the two really quick ones, the really short ones together, so it wouldn't have to keep hitting people up with assignment after assignment after assignment. But what the assignments in here build, so you'll work on your research questions, you work on your little bit your literature review and all this, and they all come together. At the end, you all put them all together into one document that you turn in. You kind of add to it. You will not have a proposal written at the end of this class. You could. I think I've had a couple people who have gotten pretty close to having a full proposal at the end of this class, but that's not necessarily the goal. The goal is to have you starting and having most of the sections started or filled in so that you can build on it and then complete it. So you'll get my feedback on your research questions. Now, Professor Bowling teaches this course differently than me. She wants the students to have a lot of check-ins with their advisor to explain what you're working on and have them approve everything. She requires it. I'm not requiring you to talk to your advisor at all. I'm encouraging you to talk to your advisor. I think you can gain a lot from just talking to me. And if I'm not helpful, you've got your advisor, you've got other former students and everything. But I'm not going to make you have meetings one-to-one. You got enough to do. You got enough to worry about. There's not a I don't have that requirement. Okay. And so I think I have more hands-on interactions than the way some of the people teach this course. Also, in the past, I've had guest speakers. I have a couple coming in, but I don't have as many because I recorded them from the last couple times, and they're available for you in a playlist. So I don't need to bring these people back. That you can just watch from the playlist if you want to learn about mixed methods. Dr. Hitchcock came twice. I could bring him back again. He lives a mile from my house. We could, chat with you about mixed methods, but it's recorded for you. So there's some, and I had Florence Martin talk about systematic reviews of the research, and Vanessa Denon as well. I'll present on how to do systematic reviews of the research, I think. So I've had people come in, I recorded them, and and because I have two full playlists from two different semesters, I'm not gonna, repeat all that. But I do have a couple people who are gonna repeat and come back in. Sharon Wong will come back in, and I think she's going to talk about mapping out a literature review, and same with Merve Bazdigan. So I have three new people coming in, and one's an alum of IST, and her name is Ana Paula Carrera, and she is originally from Portugal and as a full professor at Ohio State. And she does a lot of research on students working with corporations, being interning and stuff like that. And she has a lot of university corporate partnership grants and things like that. And she was working at Iowa State before Ohio State, so she had a lot of farm related, not traditional corporate related, but a lot of, agricultural kinds of things. And so she might be a good one to ask some of your questions about obtaining data or working with a corporate entity and gathering data and getting permissions and all that. She hasn't officially confirmed, but she said yes, if we can get a date. And I sent her a note, and right now I've got her for January 23rd, which is in 2 weeks. And so that you'll be able to ask Anna anything. And she's been really impressive. We have very few students graduating from IST who got a job at such a prestigious university as Ohio State or Iowa State. I mean, in the Big Ten, very few alums go get a job within the Big Ten. Most go to Purdue because it's close. But we don't have any at Michigan State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers, and now part of the Big Ten is Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA. None of those schools. No, we had no graduates at any of those schools. Only Ohio State, Anna, and Purdue. So that's an indicator she's pretty smart. So we have her coming in. Another person coming in is George Valencianos. Now, George almost was my graduate student about 10, 15 years ago. He is from Cyprus. And so he ended up staying at Minnesota for his doctorate, or he was, and he was doing adventure learning research. Then he got a job in Manchester in the UK, and then UT Austin in Texas. And then he became a chair of distance learning for all of Canada, working in Vancouver Island at Royal Roads University. And recently, Minnesota just rehired him. So he's just moved back a month ago where he got his PhD from to Minnesota. And if you look up George Valencianos, you'll see that his Google Scholars score metrics are just out of sight for someone who's graduated only like 10 or 15 years ago. So very prolific, and very, very, very smart and very, very good person. And he's written books on the digital scholar. So he'll talk about digital scholarship with us. So I've asked Anna to come in to talk about her specialty a bit. And these are going to be ask anything. They're not going to necessarily present to us, but George might do a little bit on digital scholarship, but those are mostly going to be open-ended kind of sessions. We have 3 or 4 of them. The third one is someone who was working at Ohio State with Anna Paula and just moved to Michigan State. He's not an alum. His name is Quay Xie, X-I-E. Quay Xie. And Quay has, done a lot of research, translational research. So he's translating what the research says, but he's done a lot of research on online learning. And if you look at his website, just many other things. He just moved to Michigan. So like George, who just moved to Minnesota, pretty fresh, he'll come in March, right after spring break. So he'll be the Tuesday after spring break. We'll also have an Ask Me Anything session with Mena Ju, who's my former advisee, who's going up for tenure. She'll come in on February 27th. Around that time, maybe a month later, she'll hear about tenure and promotion. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for her on that. Merve Bastigan just got a job at Texas Tech. She's another one of my former advisees. She's going to give us tips on literature reviews and forming research questions on March 5th, right before spring break. And what else? So tonight, by the way, at the end of tonight, for PhD students, Haejong Lee will come in from Korea to talk to any PhD students who are left here tonight. And maybe she'll come back one other time. She's working on collecting data. She took this course a year ago with me. So that's some initial comments on the syllabus. And what I'm hoping that we can do is kind of utilize the resources that exist from the past, but also in Dropbox, there are articles in there that other professors used, and I've added to them. We're not going to lecture from them. Those are supplemental resources. And so let me show you, I'll share with you my screen here and see if I can get this to called up. Oh, that's my son's article. That's not what I wanted to show. Let's see. Let me try and find this. The one thing about Zoom, if you've got a lot of things open, it's not going to immediately show you what you want. Okay. Okay, this is the syllabus for R795. And as I said, I've got people who are going to pop in here this week and next week and the weeks after, listed at the top. Their emails are there. So if you have questions for them, feel free to ask them. And it's got the different objectives for the course listed here and my advice and so forth. But below this, let's see here. Oh, it asks you to fill in the Google documents. So I don't think many people filled in the Google documents. Maybe you have since I looked. Okay, Mika's been in, Luke's been in, Tiana's been in. Okay, so a number of you have gone in the past couple of days and started to fill that in. I'm going to hide my video panel there so I can see my screen. Sorry. So now I can no longer see you guys, but I can see my screen now. So in Google Documents, it asks you who your dissertation members are, what your research questions are. And so Mika's interested in authentic learning in online environments with individuals with communicative disorders, self-directed learning, culturally relevant online learning for adults. And Luke's interested tutorial training and onboarding systems that affect employee mental health in a corporate setting. So Luke and Ed might be good partners for different breakout sessions that we might have in here, both being EDD students and so forth. And that's last semester. And she's my advisee. Her research on self-directed learning across various educational sectors and learning environments and so forth, informal, informal. And you can see in here different things. Okay. So that's one thing to note in there. If you go to Dropbox, I don't know if you've been to Dropbox or not. In Dropbox, I just added to it a 9-part talk on writing and publishing, but all the readings are available to you in Dropbox. And so you'll see every week outlined in here, and the articles, if you click, you can download a particular article by Dr. Tom Reeves or by Levin or others, and will pop the article. Can research be both rigorous and relevant? Now, I'm not going to test you on any of the articles in here. You can, and we're not going to have a discussion of them. There's no discussion forum in this class, but you do have a blog to reflect on what you're reading. That's task number 6, I think, but we'll come back to that. Yeah. So you can take a look at any particular article in here, and Dr. Reeves has 2 of them. Just got a card in the mail from him today. His Christmas card came late. The research we have is not what we need, not what the research we need. Now, I actually commissioned him to write that for a special issue, but he came in 2 years ago in this class and spoke about that, and I think the recording is available. He comes many times into my classes. He's a University of Georgia emeritus professor. So every week you'll have different articles, crafting and writing the research. Now, crafting and writing the research is a book, actually, or there is a book, but there's also a book by my friend Mike Sharples at the Open U in the UK, How We Write, which is available for free. I found it online. It's a great book. Mike's a brilliant guy. He does mobile learning research and many AI research and many other things. He and I have a lot of similar interests. And again, it's a fascinating free book. If you want to learn how to write and publish, that's the guy to read. But also in that week is an article from Dr. Glazewski, who just left IST and went to North Carolina. He wrote a book on how to has a PowerPoint on how to write a prospectus, and you could, go through and the process of writing that up. She's got that in that particular week. So there's a lot of good stuff in here, but I'm not making you read any of them or review anything. The Craft of Writing is a very popular book. Hundreds of thousands of people have downloaded this book. It's a 3rd edition. 2 of the authors are dead now. It's that old. I mean, but I think one of the people have taken it over and still alive. And so you can read that book, The Craft of Writing, and originally came out in 1995. It's now 2008 in the 3rd edition. And
It's
so
there's a 4th edition. There's 5 authors on there now.
There you go. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What year?
Let me see. I think
it's the past couple of years. So what is research? Writing is thinking. Quick tips for creating writing groups, understanding your role in the writing group, sources of data, finding a good research question or good problem.
Yeah, it looks like 2016 on this one.
2016, okay. So it's older than I thought. Looking for at sources, primary source. I mean, it's got everything. So, you should take advantage of the resources in here and download a few of them. You know, Writing is Thinking is an article, which is my dissertation, basically. Writing is Thinking. So mixed methods design is 1 week, hypothesis testing another week, data analysis another week, qualitative methods, quantitative. So this is not necessarily a research class, but you can't avoid it. This is dissertation. It's a research. So these are, again, supplemental kinds of articles. Jared Burrup, who was a guest last semester in my 622 class, has an article that's included in here. I don't know why that's in here, but it's in there. It's a mixed methods design, maybe, or so forth. Let's go back to mixed methods. I thought that's what I hit. There we go. Cresswell. So many of you know Cresswell's books. You've been reading them in other classes, maybe 695 or 501, 502 statistics courses. But Cresswell is very popular, Michigan guy, I think, or he was a Michigan or Michigan State guy for a long time. And it's a Cresswell, I think, with his wife. But you can get the entire book or entire chapter on mixed methods research and what it's all about. And Shishi and I are doing mixed methods kinds of research. So anyways, and the other thing that's in there, if you look here at the bottom, week 12, 13, 14, just little writing tips articles, and 15 as well. And then week 16, I just put in some career advice articles in there. So I've been collecting writing tip articles from the Chronicle of Higher Ed, from Inside Higher Ed, from other places. I just, made it available for you. I'm going to be lecturing from these, how to treat a dissertation like a startup company, how to respond to reviewers, 6 ways to beat writer's block, how to avoid failing your dissertation. So you can read about how to avoid failing your PhD dissertation. Some of you want to know. I'm sure you want to know. I'm gonna lecture on that as well. All these are real short. These are real interesting, short little pieces. Advice for writing a dissertation and finishing your dissertation. Burton Lewis offers 5 tips for moving past intimidation all the way to completion. That's a good article. All these, I wouldn't have put them in here if I didn't like them. So that's just week 12 in there. Some tips. You go look at week 13. You've got articles in there. 10 ways to increase. 10 ways to make sure your writing happens. Make sure you're productive. Make sure you're going. What's going to help you out? There's a growing body of productivity research that says that there are different avenues to being more productive. Some advocate this, some advocate that, and here's what person recommends. Again, these are very readable, very interesting, I think. That was a great article. From dreaded to amazing. Turning your work from a dreaded article into an amazing publication. Kathy Davidson is very famous. She was at Duke University doing MOOCs, actually, on interesting cultural topics. And now she's at City University of New York, I believe. And she writes a lot of books that are very popular in the media. And people, I've got a couple about new education, how education is changing. She's got a little article here and tells you about how she revises and how she resubmits and how she addresses reviewer comments. This is all stuff I'm going to lecture from these articles. That one's in there in particular. Tackling revisions. How to tackle revisions. There's an article by her name is Alexandra Gold. So how do you tackle your revision strategies for your next big writing assignment? She's at Boston University in the English department. Here's some of her tips, and she explains the tip, about revision. I'm going to lecture on that too. Pretty much all these articles listed here, I have in the 9 sessions I've summarized for you, or a lot of them anyhow. Week 14, more writing tips. I think, these are my writing tips. So I've got, bunk writing tips here. So I've got what's called PEERS. It's an acronym for getting published. Anyhow, peer review, extensive planning, expert team approach, relying on a format. Well, this is how to self-publish. And then I have the pros and cons of self-publishing, blah, 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 in there if you're interested in that. You might not be, but you might be interested in my writing tips. So I've got whole bunch of writing tips, 30 writing tips that I designed about, and it got published in Inside Higher Ed. It got published in 2007. I wrote it up, got published in 2010. They actually, Inside Higher Ed found it. I didn't submit it to be published. They found it, asked to publish it. So these are my 30 writing tips. There's an article, longer one. Then in 2016, I wrote up another set of 20 quick publishing and writing tips I'm going to go through with all of you. And then advice to new faculty members on how to get your writing program started and so forth, that my colleague, Dr. Cecil Smith, who went to grad school with me, who was the dean of Southern Illinois until last week, he and I, well, he published it. I helped him with this. So that's Dropbox a little bit. That's just the articles in Dropbox. Also in Dropbox is the syllabus. And boom, you'll have the syllabus, or it will be there if I've not posted it yet. And maybe I didn't. I'll get that up there. And also in there are going to be examples, task examples. So task 1, task 0, task 2, task 3, research questions, design and sampling, data analysis. There are examples. The problem is I merged 2 of these tasks. So the numbers will be off a little bit. I didn't renumber them because I was out of town when I merged the assignments. So they're in here. I got with permission from the student to share them. So the name of the actual person whose work that is with their permission. So you can see in here, some have no names and some have names because I did ask. So quality evaluation, some of you EDD students might want to look at other students' answers to the qual questions. What else in here? Prospectus drafts. So Rob Elliott's prospectus draft is in here, Luke. You might want to, you know Rob. You might want to take a look at that.
He may or may not have sent me his file filled with references for this type of stuff. So
yeah, and Ed,
I'm very prepared.
Yeah, and Ed and you and Luke might want to read Alan Kelms because he was in the corporate in Texas working in the gas and oil industry, I believe, Ed.
Okay.
So yeah, look up anything that's examples from Alan Kelm. Yeah, he's there's probably others in here corporate related, but he's one that just comes to mind right away. And Michelle Gribbins is higher ed. She studied online proctoring. We just published an article on it. Then in here are quals examples for the EDD students. There's so quals. I'll try and put the new qual example it just used last semester up here too. There's just one. There's more in Canvas. There's a timer actually. I'll explain that in a second. Oh, revision tables. Here's a couple articles from different journals of we've revised and resubmitted for publication. The examples of a revision table, so you can learn what it's like to revise and resubmit a journal article, which I think is really something my advisors never shared with me. I never learned any of this stuff or read anything. Never got any writing advice articles or any of that. I was terrible at publishing when I started. I had no clue what I was doing at all. I didn't get tenure for research. I got tenure for teaching because I couldn't publish. And now I'm probably the most published person in the School of Ed in the last 30 years because things have changed quite a bit. I work with good people, Shishi and Therese and all these smart people and Sunmei. So then I've got in here slides. So I have my dissertation story slides, how to communicate with committee slides, how to say no to things, systematic review slide. But the one I'm going to work on the most or talk about is the G3 of writing with all my writing tips. It's just uploaded this afternoon, a new version, 9 parts. I presented in Japan last month. I had a great time doing so. So that's the Dropbox, what's available inside of Dropbox. Now, there are tasks 1 through 6. And there's a task 0, taking the online plagiarism test, or if you've already taken it, writing a couple of paragraphs explaining what you did and what you learned from it. That's to be turned in this week, I would hope, or maybe by the latest, since January 13th. I have no clue what day today is, the 9th. So, and everything has a 2-day grace period. So by next Sunday, next Monday at the latest, maybe get that online plagiarism test taken or reflection paper written, and then give me the certificate of completion if they give you one. The first assignment is a statement of research, the goals, and research questions. Now that I believe is the ones I merged together. It used to be separate, 1 and 2. They had statement of goals and research questions separate, and I didn't like that. It was due like within a couple of days, too quickly. So January 23rd, you could get me the research goals and research questions. Now that will change. Your research questions will change all the way up to the dissertation defense, proposal defense. I'll tell you, the faculty love changing your research questions. They love to tinker with them at least and put at least one word in that they like better than your words. And I'm guilty of it as well, So don't feel like you have to have it nailed down by January 23rd, because even after you defend a dissertation, you'll go back and say, well, I could have asked this question or could have written this or that. The dissertation is never actually done. You're gonna do something later in life that will extend it in some way, even if it's a minor way, or very rarely it's a done deal. And then February 20th. So there's a big gap between January 23rd and February 20th. Oh my God, you got a whole month to work on a simple research design and sampling plan. And then analysis plan after spring break. If I would have been smarter, I would have had to do before the spring break. I'd give you feedback right away. So I was dumb there. Drafted perspectives, April 16th, which is a week 14 of the semester. The reason to do it week 14 is then I can give you feedback maybe, and on week 15, we're going to share with each other. We'll have a day where Teresa will come back and give you feedback. Week 15 will be, everyone presents their dissertation idea. So it's kind of a fun thing. It's always, you remember, Teresa, you were there last semester. Sunmi, you were there last semester. You have any comments on that?
I think it's a great opportunity to get feedback from your peers. Sometimes we think of things we have everything in our mind, and when you get feedback from other people, it helps you to flesh those ideas out and consider other perspectives. So I think that was really helpful for the group last time.
Sunmi?
Yeah, actually, I agree with her. That's because actually I got really great feedback from other committee member and other student, and then I can see the missing part from my dissertation. So that was really great opportunity. Yeah.
So they've forgotten one thing. By having this event in week 15, what does it do? What do you think, Ed? What does it do?
So say again on that, week 15?
Yeah, by having it week 15, what does that do for all of us? Does anyone know my tech variety model? Principle number 10 of the tech variety model is yielding a product, goal setting, commitment. It has you recognize you will have an audience beyond yourself that you have to improve to make it worthy to show to someone. It's a little nervous. People get a little nervous presenting week 15 because they're not sure how but this semester we'll do a little different. We'll get paired activities, these breakout, and we'll be talking to your so you and Luke might become a pair in here to chat with each other on your progress to get a little confidence along the way. But it gives goal setting, it directionality. Motivation's either moving forward or avoidance motivation moving back. We want approach motivation. We want people moving forward. And that goal, week 15 to present, is going to have us move forward. Teresa and Sunmi are right, getting other perspectives and hearing what others think and all that. That's the residual afterward. But we need to get to that point first. And that's the determination, the drive, the goal setting. So before I go further, Sunmi and Teresa, were there other things I've mentioned so far, anything that I've talked about that kind of hit your head a little bit that you'd like to elaborate on or discuss or mention? Nothing from Therese. Sune.
Actually, I have to leave it now. That's because I have urgent work at 4 p.m. So come back next week. Yeah.
Okay, and what we're gonna
Thank-
do, we'll have different people next week, and we'll bring them in at different points in time. Maybe we'll bring you and Therese at the same time, and then we have a couple others, and they'll all be talking about the EDD quals, because they're all EDD students coming in next week. So, so we'll see you back here maybe the same time. We'll set that up. I'll talk to you in the interim. So thanks for coming tonight, Sune. It's good to see you again. Dr. Soul.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. See you
Bye.
next week. Bye.
Dr. Bonk, I also have to leave in about 5-10 minutes.
Okay, so is there anything I need to mention in here so far that I haven't talked about yet, Therese?
I think you covered it so far.
Okay. So as you see in here, the weekly or the weekly schedule is listed in here, what the topics are, what you're to do, who's the guest. So in the right-hand column would be the guests for the week or what we're going to do. In the middle would be the readings or the topics that you might get out of Dropbox. And the left-hand side is the date and the time. Now, Tuesdays at 6 o'clock, I just pulled out of thin air. The time worked last year. There was one student who was in Arizona or New Mexico, I think, who had a little difficulty working in a corporate setting in New Mexico. Most people were not in the Pacific Coast. Most people are in Central Time or Eastern Time. And so 6 ended up being a decent times. I could go, I've done 7 o'clock. Does anyone who's here want to raise an issue with the time?
I love 6 o'clock.
I'm good with 6 too.
Okay, which is 5 o'clock in Texas.
Yes.
And you'll notice that if there's any important sports events, they're going to take place right after this ends. No, I've often taught on Monday nights at 8 o'clock and have the National Football Championship game going on. And I've been teaching my class and all the students are leaving. I'm like, why are they all leaving? You know, lo and behold, no, they would never leave my class like that. Maybe. Well, if there ever is a week or an issue, like next Monday for my other class is Martin Luther King Day. So I have to work a different day for that. So if there's anything, just let me know. You know, so synchronous cannot be required in our program, but our PhD students actually have a time slot on Fridays. The EDD students, I cannot require a time. So this course is a blended between EDD and PhD students and so forth. You know, one thing we could try to do would be to have a session in the School of Ed that's blended on Friday afternoons, but I'm not sure if any of you can get off at 2 or 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon and do a blended, because they have a time slot with a room assignment for the PhD students. So
how long would you want us for?
How long would you want to be there? No, to make it worthwhile, I'd at least say you'd have to be there at least an hour and a half to make it worthwhile to even try it. But you know, like 2 to 3:30 or something like that, would that be possible? Or you know, or
I will need to talk with
Yeah.
my my managers. I work from home, so it's not a big deal, but I teach online, so
Yeah.
it's more of just making sure of if I'm going to be AFK for an hour,
Yeah.
is that going to make a lot of people upset? So
Yeah. So,
but I could do that. It's more of I need to make sure I'm not going to upset anybody.
right.
So that's all.
No, it's important to listen to these things, because we're probably not going to do it, but it's good to know, have the data. Anyone else want to mention something? We're probably not going to do it, but again, there may be a week where it makes a lot of sense to do that way, and we'll just see. Next week, we'll probably have 2 separate sessions, one with PhD students on Friday, one with EDD students on Tuesday night. That's what I'm thinking anyhow. because the PhD students will be kind of bored hearing about they've already taken quals. They probably don't want to hear about taking quals again and advice about, but I think some of the advice on Tuesday is also going to be about dissertation proposal defense. And Angie's going to come in, who's done it several times. Luhrmann's coming from Michigan. She's in Grand Rapids, I believe. She's just dynamite. And then we've got Therese and Sunmei and Mangwan Zhao, Ali Jafari's assistant, coming in next week to talk about EDD quals. So in here you can read all that and what's available. So here you've got a playlist from last semester. These are the guests that I had or these are the presentations, including the orientation session, including qualifying exam tips, including Alyssa Wise from New York University, an alum, talking about learning analytics research, design-based research. And all my lectures are a part of that. So that's all in there. How to turn a dissertation into a journal publication is week 12. And then the semester before, fall of 20. So this was, spring of 2023. And then the fall of 2022, when I said we got a really great community, including Rob Elliott coming in week 3, and so Ziyang Xiao talking about quals tips. So that's there. This is all a playlist. Tom Reeves, John Hitchcock, who I mentioned, mixed methods guy. So so there are 2 different playlists, different semesters of stuff. So we could just have you watch these, and that would be enough. But I think it's important for us to meet face to face like this and record these sessions and so forth. So then we have course policies, of course, on lateness and plagiarism. I don't like to make these extensive. At some universities, they have you like half your syllabus is about dealing with plagiarism and lateness and it's almost gotten out of hand. All the pages devoted to all this stuff that I don't know. And then extra tasks, the plagiarism tutorial, the Google Docs introduction, and then task 1 is the statement of research goals. It explains that in here, how much, it's only a couple paragraphs. I mean, these are not long. The first couple assignments are not long. None of these assignments are truly that long in nature. They're going to take you longer to think of, to commit to, than they'll take to actually write. Won't take as much time as the commitment side. Again, the sampling plan, research design, February 20th. Analysis plan right after spring break. If you'd like it to be due before spring break and get feedback when you come back, I'd be happy to change the date, but I think I better leave it alone since that's what's already in the syllabus. I probably shouldn't muck or change with what's in the syllabus is kind of a contract with you. But if you'd like anything to be due earlier, I'm asking students, would you like something due earlier? Let me know, because you might want feedback on something a little bit earlier. So, or you're always welcome to turn it in earlier and let me know that, hey, Dr. Bonk, it's in Dropbox. I turned it in a week or 2 early. Could you give me some feedback on it? Okay. And then, so when you get into this drafted prospectus for April, I noticed that there's a spacing issue. I should put an extra space in there, a line, something didn't. So April 16th, putting it all together and then defending it the following week. Now we have extra tasks. In task 6 is a blog or a wiki journal. So Therese, before you go, you want to talk about task 6 or 7, the quals practice, or any of the things that you did for task 6, the reflection paper, or what did you do?
For task 6, what we did was kept a weekly journal, and we submitted that, reflecting on talking with people at your workplace, coming up with your topic, talking with your advisor, articles that you read that expanded your knowledge. So it was just sort of keeping a log and a reflection of how your ideas sort of evolved and what you've learned, things that you'd like to incorporate, that sort of thing. I think that I just kept a Google Doc and I dated it for each week. And then that's what I submitted at the end. There are different ways to do it. You could also create a blog if you want and have, you know, a blog on your dissertation journey if you like. And then for task 6, we did the task 7. There's where we actually did the practice for quals. So
Yes.
when I did it, Dr. G was the instructor for the course, and what she had us do was she set up in Canvas the actual quiz, and it was timed, and we had to go in and do it as if we were taking the real exam.
Yes. And so
And
let me stop this for a second because I've got that set up in here. I should show you Canvas.
Yeah. And that,
Um,
honestly, for EDD students, I cannot underscore the importance of doing that practice because it really helped me to gauge my timing. It's so amazing how fast that time goes by under exam conditions. And yes, you think you have Dr. Bonk, is it still 3.5 hours?
yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that 3.5 hours flies by really quickly, and you think you have a lot of time, but it just goes. So doing those really helped me to work on my timing.
And so I've called up Canvas here, and for people who are EDD students, you can go under quizzes here, and it's actually timed. You can take these, and you're to take, I think 2 of them you have to take by, I gave you more time than you're going to need. It's well beyond the quals date. You'll take the calls online in April sometime, I believe. So there are samples. The problem is the article critique and the qualifying exam case, they've created a new type of quiz, and I need to get you the example from last semester so you can see that. But I've not put that in the system because it takes a long time to create and put in the system. Also, in Kaltura, I'll put the weekly video sessions. You can see who the people are in this class and who's enrolled and who's sitting in and so forth. And Matthew Brown is in here, who's not here tonight. Catherine Katie Dixon's in here, Mika's in here. And so I've got announcements. I got the syllabus in here. The assignments. So you're turning your work through the assignments. Task 0 is the plagiarism test, just to get some bonus points. And then each one of these is listed in here with the date due. And then the quizzes will have the practice, blah, blah, blah. So I think Therese needs to go probably in a few seconds.
So I did have a question about that quals practice. How is that graded? Is that an
I'll read
automation
them.
or is it some? Oh,
I'll read them. And that is, an issue. If I don't read them right away, people think that, that I've not gotten to it right away. I'm trying to find the syllabus here. Yeah, no, it comes to me. You'll send them to me, or they'll go in the Canvas, and I'll download them and yeah.
and how much? Yeah, because I didn't start it yet, so I don't know how much time they're required for each. Is it a 3.5 hour task or is it?
I think so. It's the normal time.
Okay.
It's usually 3.5 hours for each question.
I'm trying to find it here. So it says you'll given 3.5 hours to finish. Yep. So and I'll give you recommended to open Word and put in your favorite word processor. Use APA 7. You have to do 2 of them. So you have to take 2 exams. And as I said in the breakout room, no one flunked quals, even with revisions. The last 3 semesters I've taught the course, no one. So don't break my streak. No, I don't want to put any pressure on you. We had 8 people last semester. 7 took quals. 1 took them this semester. All 8 of them people have passed without revisions. That's never happened before. So these practice exams are helpful,
Okay.
and it's worth doing. And one thing that people did the last couple of semesters, they formed teams, study teams, sharing with each other the answers that they gave on the practice exams. So you can share with one another the practice exams, and Ed's can compare to Luke's, can compare to, someone else is going to take them. That's okay. In fact, that helped everyone because they could give advice. If you're a PhD student, I want you to interview a former student in this class about what the dissertation process is like, or proposal is like, or prospectus is like, what did they learn, or create a similar assignment. Okay, so if you're an EDD student already past quals. So, and then this other number 6 is either a weekly blog or journal reflection on your extra reading, or other kind. It's more like your reading log or journaling about your research related reading, your literature review, basically, that you're doing. You submit your blog or journal and a 2-page single-space reflection, a link to your blog or a link to your journal, and a 2-page single-space reflection on that. On 6B, it says a 2 to 3 page single-space reflection with 30 references on, with basically 6B is really like a literature review. If you want to get going in a literature review, you do 6B. If you're really not sure about that, do 6A. I would recommend. And then after that are, that's it. That's the end of the syllabus. Okay. All right. I was thinking I listed the articles, but I didn't. So that's kind of an overview of the course. I didn't read a paragraph from it as I used to in the old days. And people get bored to tears and throw tomatoes at me and eggs, but so comments or questions?
How soon? So when is it? Hold on, I'm looking.
Yesterday.
Really close my browser.
Yesterday.
Yeah. So I believe the call for the EDD quals, and I might get the naming incorrect, so I apologize. I believe that's the 28th, 29th of March. So how soon would you recommend to jump on doing those practice exams?
Most people wait till the last week before. A couple people will want to do it tomorrow.
I am that type of person, which is why I'm asking. And
Yeah.
And the thing is, I know that's probably not useful for, because if you just get it done that early, then you have to wait all that time without the practice until you get to the date. But I also don't want to do it the week before because that will just make me very nervous.
Yeah. I'd recommend 1 to 3 weeks ahead of time, because then you'd have 3 weeks to reflect on what you would do differently and talk to others about it.
Okay.
I wouldn't do it the week of at all. Maybe 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks ahead of time. But I wouldn't do them right now. I would.
Okay. Yeah, that's more why I ask, especially since they're going to take that long to probably do in an effective amount of time. It's just more of like, okay, got to sit down, make sure I focus on this, get it done. So
what you could do is you could download a couple of the questions, just the question itself, and just write some notes about it. And then actually when you go in to take the quiz, take a couple of the different ones, or ask me for sample questions. I can send everyone, or should have put them in. I'll try and put them in Dropbox if you remind me afterwards.
Okay.
I can put these in that for whatever reason. I thought they were in there, but I noticed the syllabus has to go in, and I can put more examples in, and you can take it. And I need to find the most recent example from Dr. Kwan just sent me, and I'll put that in there too. And I'd recommend what I'd recommend doing is taking the Dr. Kwan example from last semester, because I'm not going to have time to put that into to the quiz itself, and it's a new format, so you at least have a chance to practice with the new format. And then when you go to take the quiz, try one of those that are in the automated format type. Yeah.
Okay, that's really useful. Thank you. That helps my brain so much.
Yeah. So any other comments, questions? So what I'm going to recommend we do is take a 2-minute just refreshment break and come back, and I'm going to present on just part 1 of my writing tips, G3 of writing, which is going to be short, relatively short, I think, and we'll cover, as I said, not communicating with your committee, how to get data. So how to get a sample. I might get into collaboration because the first part's so short. I might get a little bit into part 2 as well. And then we'll call it quits for tonight, and we'll meet again next week at the same time. The EDD students will. And the PhD next week, I'll just meet face-to-face, either in the School of Ed or in the library or someplace. We'll figure it out, what we'll do with you all. So I'll give everyone, I'll stop the recording at this point, or maybe I'll just pause the recording.
But I have to go and jump off. I will chat
Okay.
with you all next week. Thank you so much for all this, and I will talk to you all soon. So
Yeah, see you
bye.
next week. All right.
Bye, Luke.
So I will restart here and welcome back in part 2, a short part 2, just on data, mainly on data and so forth. It's just something I added last semester in teaching this, or last year when teaching this class. So see if I can actually call this up. And of course, it's not on the right slide, but that's okay. We can fix that. So I got really excited about writing, and I was working with Mana Ju there in the middle, and she and I were publishing a lot of things like she and I now are. Fengru Xu is on the right-hand side. She's an alum. She was advisee. She studied Olympic badminton coaches for her dissertation. That's a very interesting topic, anyhow. And she's really interested in open ed and has like 3 master's degrees like Ed does in library science and in maybe curriculum instruction and maybe language education. I don't know, all sorts of things. So I presented in Japan, and the 2 of them helped me on the presentation, although I was the only one there presenting this time. Fengru flew all the way there and then got sick and couldn't join and had flew back home. But this three-part talk I designed is a G3, gentle guidelines, great stories, and gigantic scholarly gains. And the main thing is the guidelines for all of you. Yeah, I might like some of the good stories in here and being more productive. Is really having guidelines to help you be more productive. And I've read a lot of those articles that are in your Dropbox. Now, AI in the future of writing. Those who can best write with AI will be those who can best write without it, because they'll need to be able to write good prompts to evaluate the AI output and edit the result of the text into a usable final product. AI. Is this another AI talk? No, it's not. I just threw that in there just to be funny. This is not an AI talk. I will not do that. This is a 10-part talk about writing and publishing. We're not going to do all 10 parts tonight. We're going to do the first part, maybe touch the second part briefly. We've already, why don't you share maybe briefly with me or in the chat window? Yeah, go ahead in the chat. What's one writing obstacle you're faced with now and being challenged by right now? Just put in the chat window. What's one thing you're working on in writing that's a challenge for you? It could be restarting because you've got to revise something. Like she and I have to finish a paper. I have to, or it could be doing the literature review. It could be responding to reviewers. It could be getting a group together, get maybe team or funding. What are you facing? What do you mean by breaking my own writing pattern? Breaking it down or understanding your writing pattern or changing to a different pattern?
I think when you write a lot, you tend to put into a box or a habit how you write.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it's not encouraging creativity and also thinking out of the box. So I'm just trying to think how could I change my style or the way of thinking or the way of argument. Yeah.
Yep. So instead of being an automaton, wrote robotic writing, trying to find a way to break the habits that you have so you can free up your mind to be a little more creative. She's pointing that. So Hyunjae maintained the coherence of thought throughout the manuscript because he's got a lot of ideas. If you don't know him, if you talk to him, he's got so many ideas. And if he gets them all on one paper, that kind of looks a little scattered. You know, he's got, well, it could go here, he could go, just to find a logical flow and coherence and consistency of the transitions in parts, the laying it out and setting the expectations at the start to remind people what they learned at the end, this kind of coherence, logical flow. Is important. And Ed, collecting just is an issue raised earlier, just collecting, getting access, getting ethical access and approved access, and then actually you might have approval, but you need to actually get people to commit to being involved, even if the corporates say, yeah, employees might be hesitant to share so a lot. So yours on the data collection, and that's not unusual. And that's the topic for tonight is data collection. So that's really appropriate here. And, you know, Shishi's got one really important one because I could fall in that trap myself because I've been writing. I've got 16 articles in review right now. I think I got 12 or journal articles last year published and 6 in press. So I had, you know, what is that? Like 34 different articles I worked on last year. That's a lot. It's too many, but I'm having fun. And I start becoming a robot. I'm a robot, right? And so we want to break that. You can, you know, it'd be really nice to have a couple of creative things that one does every year, something different and unusual. I did a calendar of quotes this year with running pictures, something I could be creative and just something different other than academic writing and all that. Okay, let me go back to share my screen here.
So Dr. Bonk, I had a question. When you're co-writing with students,
yeah,
do you find yourself guiding them down a direction, or do you take their original idea and, like you said, becoming a robot with a pattern because you have an area of expertise, and does their area start to direct or guide into your expertise as you go?
You have to be cautious. You don't want to provide too much guidance because once you start providing some guidance, it could be deemed as interference. You know, you got to be real sensitive to one's writing because but you have to also be appreciative of the fact they want feedback. So it's a balancing act between giving too much feedback because you don't want to give too much feedback on early writing endeavors because you'll stop people's flow a bit. You know, and you want to shape what's been done to make it better and add your expertise to it wherever it is, but you don't want to intervene it too early at all. That could lead down the wrong path. And it could be torturous. You could be, you know, I've got couple people we've had to replace as lead, get someone else in there because they couldn't finish because I left it more open-ended for them. They were unable to take it to the end. They were unable to finish their part. But for most people, they want to have autonomy and ownership and be empowered, yet they also want feedback that's appropriate. So you want to take over. For me, I'm really good at limitations and future directions. And a lot of students are real hesitant to do future directions and limitations or implications and stuff like that. And so we can define a role and then play that out. And then it usually, over time, you usually kind of figure it out, kind of works itself out. So Snoopy, good luck with the second sentence. You know, he thinks he's done, but he's just got the first sentence. And that's why a lot of us, at least you got one sentence. Okay, getting a research sample. There's a lot of ways to get a research sample. You can look at online databases, existing databases, you know, government provided databases. You can give people questionnaires and instruments and surveys. You can actually interview them one-to-one or focus groups, or you can observe what's going on or other kinds of things, just traditional document analysis and log data, computer log data and other things. You can go to a center. A lot of students get data from their advisor that they've collected a long time ago at a center that they run or a grant project that they have, and they have a strand of data that's never been analyzed. That's legitimate for doing a dissertation. It's got to be a unique data set that hasn't been analyzed. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to collect new stuff. You can analyze existing data. And a lot of people do find new questions on existing data. A lot of my research for the last 20 years has been on a lot of research on online open access websites that look at informal learning, and we might use content analysis of the website, or looking at discourse analysis of online discussions that have taken place in the past, or reanalyzing them. Someone might have analyzed the discussion forum. We might reanalyze it from another model or another framework and so forth. So just getting access to a center's data, or an institute's, or the government data that might be available as open access. It might be already available in some kind of format. Computer log data, which was my dissertation, we had collected keystrokes of every student's writing, and for every revision of the paper, every session, we restarted the keystroke mapping system, and we recorded everything and could watch students responding to different prompts that they were given, and see how, if different styles of students, the learning disabled students or different ages, could respond in different ways. So computer log data is alive. It's pretty nondescript. It's pretty boring stuff. I used to be an accountant. It's kind of as boring as being an accountant, watching keystrokes unfold over time. And I wouldn't recommend it, but it's not bad as a secondary data source. It's not bad but as a primary data source, one time a study, one time like that, two times, don't spend your career collecting data, doing computer log or computer generated data. Paste your study if you want to get data. A lot of times we put the links to our study in social media like Facebook or LinkedIn. I had a YouTube study in the early days of YouTube. I think one of my best studies, never published, that we couldn't get data until we put the link in, I think, Facebook, and we created a Facebook community, and everyone, wow, this is a cool name and they started signing. Maine and I put a link into a MOOC at the end of the MOOC. And students are still taking. We've probably got thousands of respondents that we've never analyzed. I'm still every day getting new data on a study because students are taking this MOOC. It's self-paced. So again, you could just cut and paste into a MOOC the link and have students, whoever wants to take it. Getting permission from an instructor, from a professor, or from who's ever in charge of the class. This is a great way. And George Valencianos, who's coming in a couple of weeks, that's how he did some of his research, getting professors to post a link to the surveys in their MOOC. Go out and collect data. Just go out and observe or survey or interview people. Contact fellow researchers like George. I contacted George. George, how did you get that data? This is really cool. I'm having problems getting student data. How did you do that? And they'll tell you. Why not write to someone who's published in the area? And they're gonna, they're proud of their research. Not everybody will tell you because they want to be protective and their little niche area, but most people will tell you. So, your advisor will not have all the answers, but there might be dozens of people doing research in this area. If you wrote to 2 or 3 or 4 of them, you could get real insight into the possible studies, and then those people could be colleagues with you. Those people could form maybe a symposium at a conference. Once you make those connections, those networks expand. So this is never just about one study. Every time you reach out, it's about your career. It's about your professional career and being a member in academia who contributes something that's of value. Forming a Facebook community or a LinkedIn community related to your research. As I said, my YouTube study, we wouldn't have been able to do it without forming a Facebook community in that case. Now, I was not a good researcher from the standpoint of taking it the next step and publishing this stuff. We had people randomly being assigned to different popular YouTube videos, and then taking some questions on about them, about the motivation, about the instructional design. It's a fascinating study. It was random. We had a random generator of different videos that were like getting millions of hits, and in entertainment, sports, education. I'm blanking on some of the other categories. As you see, I'm still excited about that study, sad about that study. Early in my career, I had many I thought were good studies, never published. Research team collects names and emails from an existing website. I'd say maybe this is one of the top ways I've collected data in the past. I've had people go to Merlot, which is an online resource for sharing contents. And we've mined it for faculty names and emails and then send them the faculty a survey. We've mined MOOCs from Canvas and Blackboard and Udemy and Coursera. And we've gotten all the instructor names. We sent these instructors surveys. We got 3,000 MOOC instructor emails and names. And we did research on that. So collectives, kind of like data mining, kind of scraping data, sort of, but just grunt work, just collecting all the names and all the emails of people. But get permission from the people at the website. One time we had a person who wasn't real happy. We were researching his little community. It was public access. We didn't do anything wrong. Later, he became a friend. He first was bad, and then came back and said, "Oh, we're interested in this research. I just didn't explain it to him ahead of time. I made a mistake in not letting him know ahead of time." Scraping online data and conducting data mining and learning analytics. Now, sometimes my former student, Timothy Hugh in Hong Kong, he had someone hanging out in his lab who knew how to do data mining and scraping data. And he hired him to help him do his research, in particular on MOOCs and open education. And they did a study on the 10 most popular MOOCs in the world and what were the factors, what were the things embedded that made the instructor more effective than others. They were able to understand something very, very important to help the whole world out, to understand what makes for a more engaging MOOC by data mining, scraping data. And he had no talent. Timothy's prolific. Look him up. He's just phenomenal, but he didn't know how to do data mining. He recruited someone, and they together have published tons of stuff. Buying, so Shishi and I, we've bought names from a vendor, Prolific. What, right? You want to explain that, Shishi, how Prolific works?
I got a small funding from the open education group, and then they found us for using the platform Prolific to collect data. So basically, I think they said all the users on the platform are certified. So I don't know how, maybe the email and other information, so they have all the demographic information. For example, in my research, I want to look for students in maybe K-12 side, no K-12, because they have all the participants over 18 years old. So maybe I want to look for undergraduate students in the United States. So I can use a filter to choose if they are current student status, and then if they are attending undergraduate degree and program, and then located in the United States. So I can use a filter, then set up, for example, I want to collect 500 responses. So I just set up the maximum responses I want to get, and then they will send to many people until it hit 500.
How quickly we have like 500 responses? How many days? How many weeks?
I guess it depends on the topics. For some study, what we did, it's the quickest one I can think is probably 3 days.
To get how many in 3 days?
I think 400 something.
400 in 3 days. I never had that before. That's amazing. So Prolific is those things, Shishi. Prolific is a place where you could maybe get that kind of support. And the cost is was it like 5 cents a response or something like that?
They have a basic rate, so you have to follow at least that minimum payment. But then it can't by hours, like hourly pay. I think the lowest payment is $8 1 hour. But I usually set it much higher than that. So I got a lot of
Right.
response.
Right. And so getting small pots of money, just little pots of money, you can get access to some of these databases to conduct the research that you want to do. And Open Education is on the annual conference, Open Ed, that has a foundation or some funding behind it that you can apply to. So I can recommend you, like I did Shishi, recommend you for Open Ed conference. And sometimes they will review my recommendation and accept you or not. And if you get accepted, they'll pay for your conference. 2 conferences they used to pay for. Now it's an online conference, unfortunately. But yeah. So number 12, having a sponsor for your research. Wikipedia, or the Wikimedia Foundation, actually sponsored one of my research studies on Wikibooks. I met the owner of Wikipedia, the founder, dropped out of Indiana University, the online PhD program, the PhD program in finance, face-to-face in the business school. He dropped out of IU and created Wikipedia, Wikimedia Foundation. In Riyadh, great guy. His name is Jimmy Wales. MIT. They didn't respond to me, didn't respond. All of a sudden, MIT responded. They said, oh, sure, we're happy to embed the link to the study in our monthly newsletter. It goes out to 200,000 people or something like that, ungodly number of people. I'm like, wow. So sometimes you just have to ask. You have to be a little bold, and you would think that thousands of people would go to do research on Wikipedia and or WikiQuote or Wikibooks or all these sites there. No, they didn't have a lot of people contacting them for research. They were happy to put the link in somewhere. I forget where exactly they put it. I visited their headquarters. They had 10 or 12 people. That's all Wikipedia had. It was at the time, this is 2008. 12 people working there, affecting the lives of millions of people. So sometimes this is a way to get to. So Ed, you can go right to the company. Go to the Hewlett Foundation, if Hewlett Packard. Go to the Ford Foundation. As an IU student, you have to be a little bit cautious about some of these foundations, like Lilly. The IU does not want us, even faculty, we cannot contact. But some of the small, some of these others that we're not as connected. If you have a contact there or link there, I'd recommend just playing, hitting the contact and the about and ask your questions. What am I forgetting? Okay. That's
Okay.
all
Yeah.
I had for tonight for that.
Okay.
And Ed is saying he's got to leave.
I've got to go. Yeah.
Did I forget anything? Are there other ways of collecting data I don't have on the list?
No, I'm sure I'll bring the question up again to other fellow students, particularly other people who have finished their PhD in EDD.
Yeah.
Because this would be a good way. I mean, my organization would be great to find, but I'd like to get other tech organizations too. Would be great to kind of get a collective, be a more productive or a more universal type of data collection instead of just from my organization.
Another way I thought of is you could reanalyze someone else's dissertation. They've already collected the data, but you're going to analyze that same data in a different way. And I've seen that happen a couple of times.
Okay, that's a good idea too.
So I didn't get to part 2. I'll do that maybe next week or the week after, I guess. I'll see EDD students on Tuesday, PhD students on Friday. Shishi will I'll just talk to you on email. We'll see you when you come back. So I'm going to stop the recording at this point, and welcome to week 1, R795.